The Gulf of St. Lawrence is the outlet of the North American Great Lakes via the St. Lawrence River into the Atlantic Ocean. The Gulf is a semi-enclosed sea, covering an area of about 236,000 square kilometers and containing about 35,000 cubic kilometers of water, which results in an average depth of 148 meters. Geography. The Gulf of St. Lawrence is bounded on the north by the Labrador Peninsula and Quebec, to the east by St. Pierre and Newfoundland, to the south by the Nova Scotia Peninsula and Cape Breton Island, and to the west by the Gaspé Peninsula, New Brunswick, and Quebec. As for significant islands, the Gulf of St. Lawrence contains Anticosti Island, Prince Edward Island, Isles de la Madeleine, Cape Breton Island, St. Pierre Island, and Miquelon-Longlade. Half of the 10 provinces of Canada adjoin the Gulf: New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland and Labrador, and Quebec. Besides the St. Lawrence River itself, significant streams emptying into the Gulf of St. Lawrence include the Miramichi River, Natashquan River, Romaine River, Restigouche River, Margry River, and Humber River. Branches of the Gulf include the Chaleur Bay, Fortune Bay, Miramichi Bay, St. George's Bay, St. George Bay of Islands, and Northumberland Strait. Outlets. The Gulf flows into the Atlantic Ocean through the following outlets: the Strait of Belle Isle between Labrador and Newfoundland, between 15 kilometers and 60 kilometers, widens 60 meters deep at its deepest. The Cabot Strait between Newfoundland and St. Pierre and Cape Breton Island, 104 kilometers wide and 480 meters deep at its deepest. The Strait of Canso between Cape Breton Island and the Nova Scotia Peninsula, 1.0 kilometers wide and 60 meters deep at its deepest. Due to the construction of the Canso Causeway across the strait in 1955, it no longer permits exchange of water between the Gulf of St. Lawrence and the Atlantic Ocean. Extent. The limits of the Gulf of St. Lawrence vary between sources. The International Hydrographic Organization defines the limits of the Gulf of St. Lawrence as follows: on the northeast, a line running from Cape Bald to the east extreme of Belle Isle and onto the northeast ledge, thence a line joining this ledge with the east extreme of Cape St. Charles in Labrador. On the southeast, a line from Cape Canso to Red Point in Cape Breton Island, through this island to Cape Breton and on to Point Blanche in the island of St. Pierre, and thence to the southwest point of Morgan Island. On the west, the meridian of 64 degrees 30 W, but the whole of Anticosti Island is included in the Gulf. Fisheries and Oceans. Canada places the western limit at Point Desmonts. Protected Areas. St. Paul Island, Nova Scotia, off the northeastern tip of Cape Breton Island, is referred to as the graveyard of the Gulf because of its many shipwrecks. Access to this island is controlled by the Canadian Coast Guard. Bonaventure Island on the eastern tip of the Gaspé Peninsula, Isle Bryan and Roches Owasso northeast of the Magdalen Islands are important migratory bird sanctuaries administered by the Canadian Wildlife Service. The federal government of Canada has national parks along the Gulf of St. Lawrence at Forillon National Park on the eastern tip of the Gaspé Peninsula, Prince Edward Island National Park on the northern shore of the island, Cochabowac National Park on the northeastern coast of New Brunswick, Cape Breton Highlands National Park on the northern tip of Cape Breton Island, Gros Morne National Park on the west coast of Newfoundland, and a national park reserve in the Mingan Archipelago on the Côte Nord of Quebec. The 5 provinces bordering the Gulf of St. Lawrence also have several provincial parks apiece, some of which preserve coastal features, undersea features. The Laurentian Channel is a feature of the floor of the Gulf that was formed during previous ice ages, when the continental shelf was eroded by the St. Lawrence River during the periods when the sea level plunged. The Laurentian Channel is about 290 meters deep and about 1,250 kilometers long from the continental shelf to the mouth of the St. Lawrence River. Deep waters with temperatures between 2 and 6.5 degrees Celsius enter the Gulf at the continental slope and are slowly advected up the channel by estuarine circulation. Over the 20th century, the bottom waters of the end of the channel have become hypoxic. Cultural importance. The Gulf has provided a historically important marine fishery for various First Nations that have lived on its shores for millennia and used its waters for transportation. The first documented voyage by a European in its waters was by the French explorers Jacques Cartier in the year 1534. Cartier named the shores of the St. Lawrence River the country of Canadas, after an indigenous word meaning village or settlement, thus naming the world's second largest country. At just about the same period, Basques came to frequent the area for whale hunting and trade with the First Nations people of the modern Canadian Atlantic and Quebec provinces. They left vestiges of the presence in many locations of the area: docks, furnaces, graveyards, etc.